All right, boys, it's time for another Bleacher Report article. Win-loss predictions for every team 2025 season. Shout out to Andy Bailey. And we begin with Atlanta. 38 wins for Atlanta. It's going to be all about the defense, man. I mean, Trey played like 50-something games last year. He hasn't had like a long injury history thing, so I expect him to get back to 70-something games played. But it's really got to be like between Dyson Daniels, and we'll see if Risa Shea can be a good team defender right away, and if Capella can still hold up, and Jalen Johnson, who's good across the board. If the defense can just go from bad last year to okay this season, well, it's already been proven that Trae Young, healthy for a whole year, can give you a top 10 offense. It's happened multiple times for them. Also, can't forget Bogdanovich in this whole thing. I'll be a little nice. I think the Hawks will hit 40 wins. Do they hit 41? I don't know. Now we go to my NBA champion Boston Celtics. 56 wins. Do I take this as disrespect? Listen, I've had to deal with like the worst 3 weeks ever as a fan of Jason Tatum, okay? 59 wins is an awful lot for someone outside of Porzingis missing 25 games. I mean, yeah, like that's the take, right? It's like they had injury luck last year, which is basically what they say, and then Porzingis, I mean, he's dealing with a real lower body injury. I would like to put them over 60 wins again, simply because I would like them to do it again. Because as far as the team itself, like besides the Porzingis injury, there's nothing really to suggest. Like unless Al Horford just ages like 7 years in one offseason, I can't really imagine there's going to be much drop-off at all. Unless Porzingis injury or maybe just human nature taking the foot off the gas a little bit like at the end of the season. 19 wins for the Brooklyn Nets. I wonder what's going to be higher this year, Cam Thomas's points per game or the Nets wins. The tanking case is clear as day for the Nets. They got their own picks. Teams are going to want Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson and Schroeder. Doesn't guarantee they'll move everybody, but also if they have to, they will do a mega ultra disrespectful to the league tank in the last like 15 games of the year if they need to. Now we go to Charlotte. 28 wins. And franchise cornerstone LaMelo has struggled with unavailability to the degree he has. He's only played in 58 games last 2 years. Mark Williams right here as well. Like, I'll just keep saying it. If those two are healthy, I think Charlotte is definitely better than a 28-win team. And of course, Brandon Miller's going to do his thing. I did see a report recently that said LaMelo is going to be wearing ankle braces. I feel like he's got to go on the Steph Curry ankle protection plan. Remember Steph early in his career? There was like a genuine fear about his health because of his ankles, and LaMelo, he's got to do all the same stuff. All right, now we get to the Bulls. 30 wins. Question for Bulls fans. Would you enjoy a 30-win season, or do you want like a 19-game win season? Like, do you want the full-blown tank? I mean, granted, like, look, if LaVine has a bounce-back year, if Vooch's shooting hits more than it did last year, if Kobe White continues his jump, if Giddey's better just off of being at his natural position, then maybe they hit 30 wins. I don't know. I would bet the under on this personally. We also know they're going to try to trade LaVine and possibly Vooch throughout the year. I feel like you could go in either direction with the Cavs because last season was kind of a mess in terms of injuries, although even then you could argue they had their most fun part of the regular season when a bunch of their guys were out. But the big four of Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, and Allen, and just wherever the chemistry is at that point, you could just say that they get to over 50 wins off the back of like, those guys are good players. It's now year 3, and even if there's injuries and all that round 1 loss to the Knicks is still kind of looming over everything, even though they have gotten more shooting. You know, Kenny Atkinson's the coach now, and Cavs fans were kind of ready to see Bickerstaff go. I mean, at the least, like, they've been a top 10 defense for 2 years now. And that was with Mobley and Allen playing about half the season together last year. So, like, at the least, you could be a top 10 defense, and then offensively between Garland just overcoming some injury stuff from last year, a possible jump from Mobley, but even just enough sort of sets on offense besides just screens up top for the two guards for more variety. You know, like Mobley and Allen DHOs and the guards catching it on the move, that sort of thing. Mobley got to a little over 3 assists per game this past year. Allen was almost there. So we'll see. 51 wins for Dallas. Bro, they were so good past the trade deadline last year, and they ended up with like 50 wins last season. Like, I just feel like Dallas is going to be a mid-50s win team this year, unless they get injuries or unless the defense just really falls off with Derrick Jones not there. But they got Najee Marshall for some of that on-ball defense. It doesn't necessarily mean the Mavs will smash last season wins total. The West is still going to be a gauntlet. That is true. All right, now we go to the Nuggets. 55 wins. So last year, the Nuggets won 57 games. And yeah, we all know KCP's out. Christian Brown's going to start. Jamal Murray didn't look good in the Olympics. And that's going to be the big swing thing for him. That and I guess the non-Jokic minutes, but that's always been a thing. If you would like to be pessimistic on Denver, by their standards, I don't think anybody's expecting like a hard drop-off. But between the KCP loss and Murray's health, I mean, he played 59 games this past regular season, and he was inconsistent in the Wolves series. Really good in the Game 7, but not the whole series. I get it, but for me, I think Murray's production is still going to be good enough to where Jokic can just take care of the rest, basically. To where I think 55 wins is fair. 23 wins for the Pistons. What would be considered a successful season for the Pistons? If they hit 30 wins, like we're throwing a parade in Detroit. if they even got to like 27 or 28, would they still view that as a success? I think what it comes down to is like, do we not suck on offense around Cade? And they got more shooting now. Tobias, Beasley, Hardaway, Fontecchio coming back. Tobias Harris redemption arc. Sixers fans are in shambles. The Warriors, 46 wins. That was about what they had last year, right? I've already done my big question about Steve Kerr's lineups for this upcoming year in my one question for every West team video. So for the sake of this, I'm just going to say, you need the best season that Jonathan Kuminga can possibly give you, which is going to mean a whole lot of him just being way too athletic for NBA defenders to deal with. And then hopefully more improvements in the little stuff for him, like team defense and making quick decisions as a passer, all that stuff. I think the biggest thing that we saw last year with them is that you can have a really good defense with Şengün on the court. Some of that was Şengün improving, and also, Dylan Brooks on the ball, Jabari is a team defender, Fred's a good defender. We know what Udoka is, he's a defense-first coach. Like, if they can get a consistent Jalen Green, 44 wins is definitely in play. The one caveat to that is the Western Conference is so damn difficult for the Rockets to have, like, the next big jump. I think Şengün needs to be an all-star, and he's got the talent, he's got all the crafty post moves, we all know that. I think Reed Shepherd's got to be like a day one impact guy, and we saw how crazy he was as a shot creator in Summer League. And you just, again, a consistent Jalen Green, because the tough shot making can be there. Year 2, Ahmed and Cam should be fun. 46 wins for the Pacers. That does seem low, mostly because I think it's safe to assume that Halliburton's going to be over the hamstring injury. And also because I just looked up the lineup stuff, like the Halliburton, Siakam, Miles Turner, Nesmith, Nembhard starting 5 had a defensive rating of like 107, which is really good. Like last year, they finished second in offense and 20-something in defense. So it could be as simple as just they made a couple moves and they shifted some lineups around to get better defensively, and as a result, they might just win more games next year. And I don't think they're going to have like some big drop-off on offense. But also, I can't be hitting the over on every single team in the Eastern Conference. Like, what's going to happen is you're going to have like 4 teams in the East that are somewhere between like 48 and 52, 53 wins. Which is basically what happened this past year. I mean, Philly was in the play-in tournament because of the Embiid injury. They had 47 wins. So I don't know. It feels low by a few wins, but I guess that's the point of the exercise. For the Clippers, we have 42 wins. Yeah, I think it just comes down to Kawhi's health. Like, it's always been about Kawhi's health, but now it's just even more about Kawhi's health. I mean, as far as around it, they've got good defenders. Harden is going to allow the ship to keep afloat offensively. That was weird English. Yeah, it's just Kawhi's health. We can move on. 44 wins for the Lakers. It's really just going to come down to JJ Redick's influence as a coach, pretty much. And, I mean, I keep saying this. Rui as the starter with LeBron, AD, D'Lo, Reeves was the best stretch they had last season. And so if you believe in that, on top of, I mean, JJ keeps on preaching more three-pointers and stuff, like, okay. I mean, we know LeBron and AD are good enough. I mean, they had 47 wins last year. The West has improved around them. Again, they had, like, lineup issues and stuff last year. To me, it just feels like another high 40s win year in a really tough West, so I'll take the over on this thing. The Grizzlies have cleared 50 wins the past 2 years when they've been healthy. We all know this past year was a lost season for them. And they got Gigi and Vince who are going to be in the rotation now for them. There are some questions here, though, man. I mean, for one, like Zach Edey, you look at their center situation, it's Zach Edey, and we'll see what that looks like day one. I mean, the dude's going to be a tank. I'm mostly just asking about, like, guarding in space and all that stuff. Then Jaren will get some of those minutes at center as well. I do think as far as shooting goes, like, Jaren's 3-ball, depending on the year, is either better or worse. Marcus has been a little better on his threes, but it's still Marcus Smart. Teams are not going to be glued to him from outside. So there are some questions, but, I mean, again, for 2 years in a row now, it's as long as the Grizzlies roster is not a mess with injuries, they're going to get wins, man. The trio of Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, and Ja Morant, of course, they barely played together this past year because Ja basically missed the entire year. They only played 29 games together 2 years ago. So it's actually been a minute since those three have just been on the court together for an extended period of time. Miami, 45 wins. I feel like at this point, every single Heat regular season has got to be the same thing, which is Jimmy comes out of the gates just not scoring enough. Bam just plays great defense all year. They deal with weird injuries throughout the year. Spo and Bam, and then, eventually Jimmy heating up more as the year goes on, drags him through it. Heat fans are having a constant conversation about how good is Tyler Hero as he puts up 20 a game, but, consistency game to game not always the best. Waiting on Jovic to become this, like, futuristic, tall power forward. Rozier will be fine, and then they're going to end up with, like, 40-something wins. They're going to be in the play-in tournament. That's Miami's season for you. It's every season at this point. And as far as what happens after that, well, listen, it could go crazy, it could not go crazy. But you got Hawkins, so that's exciting. 51 wins for the Bucks. I've done the Bucks spiel enough this offseason. I don't feel like doing the whole thing. Basically, Giannis is going to be great, and then the age/health of all the significant players around him will decide the rest of it, but Giannis is going to be Giannis. I think the 51 wins is fair. Like, they won 49 last year. It's fine. Let's see, the Wolves, 50 wins. Can I be honest? There's a part of me that wants to go all in on the Wolves this year and, like, pick them to make the finals. I don't know if I've got the guts to do that right now, but I definitely have the guts to say that I believe they're going to win more than 50 games. 46 wins for the Pelicans. We did get a 70-game season out of Zion. He was really heating up towards the end. He had 40 against the Lakers in the play-in game, and then unfortunately he went down. At the risk of repeating things I've already said, the best version of the Pelicans is with Trey Murphy on the court, and Herb, of course. Even if DeJounte is not the defender he was in San Antonio, the fact that these guys have been a top 10 defense for 2 years, a lot of it from Herb Jones and being good at guarding the three-point line, I think that takes some pressure defensively off of DeJounte to where he can just be part of that, as opposed to, like, please save our defense, DeJounte, which is kind of what it was when the Hawks traded for him. As for the center situation as well as Brandon Ingram's future, I don't know. 46 wins seems cool. The West is going to be super close. The Knicks, 49 wins. Oh, no. Knicks fans, don't get mad at me. I'm just reading the article. The loss of Isaiah Hartenstein is a big deal. His effort in passing did a lot to grease the wheels. Mitchell Robinson has had a hard time staying healthy. I mean, they're not wrong on the center situation. Ihart was huge for them, and we'll see if Mitch gets through the whole season. If he does, I mean, he's a rebounding monster. Everything outside of the center spot is just so good. Sure, Randall, is he making the tough shots that we know he's going to attempt? Like, some of that's going to swing this, but man, like, all the lineup data with OG once they got him and McHale together, DiVincenzo, who was just straight up one of the best shooters in the league this past season, and then Brunson being Brunson, I just can't believe it's going to be 49 wins. Like, if you predict, do this right now, go on Twitter, predict the Knicks win 49 games. If Knicks Twitter finds your tweet, just, like, turn off your phone for 2 days. So I cannot subscribe to this belief. And you know what? If anybody could make the most out of a center rotation of Precious Achiuwa and Jericho Sims if Mitch goes down, it's probably Tibbs. OKC, everybody's favorite Western Conference team going into this year for good reason. 55 wins. That's actually 2 less than last year, and they definitely improved their roster. J-Dub's going to get better. Chet's going to get better. Caruso gives them even more perimeter defense. And the amount of steals and deflections and blocks that this team is going to get, like, it's going to be just some outrageous numbers with SGA. And then, of course, you've got maybe my most intriguing thing going into next season, which is the Chet and Ihart lineups. 48 wins for the Magic. Whatever the next year improvement is for Paolo, and then their defense continuing to be great. Magic fans, how does it feel having real expectations again? Isn't it fun? The big swing thing with them is probably just going to be if Franz's 3-ball comes back. I mean, as an overall player, he's good, of course. And I'll still keep living the dream that Wendell Carter becomes a stretch 5, which means he would have to be healthy for a whole season and basically, like, double his 3-point attempts. Are they going to win exactly 48? I don't know, but 52 wins for the Sixers. Yeah, I think my next video is probably going to be about Philly, so I'll probably go into more detail on that. The very easy thing to say is just, if PG and Embiid are healthy, they're certainly talented enough to win more than 52 games. And I would go with the over for them. I mean, they got to 47 last year, and that was with Embiid, still missing a lot of time. And no PG, of course. So I just want to talk about with the Paul George picture on your screen. How the hell did Caleb Martin just fall into their lap, man? I mean, I know what happened. The agent was expecting more than he could actually get, and so Martin actually ended up losing money. But for Philly's sake, it's like, what the... From Celtics killer goes from Miami to Philly, like, yeah, I'm feeling great. And you can tell me regular season-wise, like, it's not a super big deal. And you might be right, but if the Celtics and the Sixers see each other in the playoffs, which is very possible, and Caleb Martin makes 5 threes in game 1, I'm just going to be like, hey, listen, a higher power was at work here. 50 wins for the Suns. For the sake of Matt Ishbia's sanity, I would hope that this number ends up being higher. I mean, they got to 49 last year, and that was with Beal just having kind of a mess of a regular season with games missed and that whole thing. And we all like the offseason they had with Tyus and Monte. And I did see after that Tyus pickup, there were some takes of people being like, will Beal come off the bench? I would bet that does not happen. I mean, obviously they're going to finagle the lineups to where there's going to be like 2 of these guys on the court at all times. And I think if you can have one takeaway from the Olympics, it's that Devin Booker is definitely able to do more of the dirty work if you need him to. Now, obviously, Phoenix is going to need Book to score more than the Olympic team did, but as far as like on-ball defense and just general toughness, I think KD is great. Bud will tell him to shoot more threes. I think at the least for Phoenix this year, just off of the top 3 guys, you've got to be the best or like the second best offense in the league. And them getting 2 good point guards will help on the turnover problem from last season. The Blazers, 15 wins, man. Is that disrespectful? Look, they had a lot of injuries last year, like Simons and Sharp both missed a lot of games. Both Grant and DeAndre Ayton were in the 50s of games played as well. But also, like, you've got to give Scoot the runway to be a real part of your offense, which means it's not going to be pretty every single night. Like, that's just the process of getting a young point guard up to speed. So I don't know. I mean, they're certainly not going to be that good. I will say, I do want to know if Chauncey's going to bust out like an all-defense lineup that's like Klingon, Thibault, Denny, Kamara, and then or you can put like Jeremy Grant there. I don't know. Just get weird with it, Chauncey. 44 wins for Sacktown. Yeah, Kings fans are not going to like that one. It feels a little mean, mostly because I think they'll have a decent jump on offense. I mean, they were 13th this previous year. They were, of course, first 2 years ago. DeMar and Fox will make big shots. I think DeRozan's two-man game with Sabonis is going to be there. And then defensively, unfortunately, Devin Carter, their draft pick, had an injury, and he's going to be out for like 6 months, and he's supposed to be a hell of a perimeter defender. You're going to be leaning on Keegan and Keon a little bit more, and we'll see if like Trey Lyles gets more minutes because him and Sabonis have been successful together. Like, and even then, they made a jump on defense last season. So while I would like to give them more wins than this, the West is just going to be so damn loaded, bro. 33 wins for the Spurs. Yeah, I feel like it really just comes down to like how wild do you want to get, because we all agree they're going to be better. I mean, all the lineups with Wemby at center, especially with Tyus at point guard, are like, dude, it's already a winning formula. And then between Harrison Barnes, who like, yeah, Kings fans soured on Harrison Barnes because his production went down, his drives to the basket and stuff went down, but like he's going to be fine for him. It's going to be a solid enough vet. Could see another scoring jump from Vassell. Chris Paul's going to average like 7 points and 7 assists. If you just asked me how many wins did the Spurs get this year, my snap reaction would be like about 35 wins, give or take. And hell, maybe that's me still underplaying it, because there's a very real chance that Wemby is a consensus top 10 guy by the end of next season. Now the Raptors with 26 wins. The lineups with Quickly, RJ, and Scotty were positive last year for him. Pirtle's still fine. Olynyk is not a bad other center to have. It's kind of funny, contrasting styles between Pirtle and Olynyk. It's just around that, it's just like a lot of young dudes. You know, Davion Mitchell, Grady Dick, who I want to just take a lot of shots this year. Kobe Walter, Abaji. And like, yeah, you know, Bruce Brown's obviously a help you win right now type of guy, but it wouldn't shock me if he got moved this year. Utah, 26 wins. It seems fine. I think a lot of it just depends on if they choose to commit to a tank at some point in the year and how aggressively they do it. Wizards, 20 wins. Sure, if you want to.